Hello everyone and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. My name is Giridhari and today I want to tell you about something really interesting. We're going to make a comparison between Jesus and Shiva, and we're going to see 5 parallels between Shiva and Jesus that might blow your mind away. I thought it was very interesting, something that just kind of Krishna inspired me to see, and I think it's very interesting. I hope you like it too. So let's get going here. First thing we're going to see. The first thing they have in common, they're the examples of perfect devotees of God. So of course Jesus, that's what he did his whole life, total dedication to God, telling everybody to worship God, the whole thing, like behavior, like perfect, maximum levels of devotion to God, total dedication to God of us and Jesus. And Shiva, the same thing. You'll see in the Bhagavad Purana and many other texts, Shiva is this perfect devotee, always being the perfect yogi. So, in yoga is the path of devotion in the Vedic tradition. So the perfect yogi, always in meditation, always in renunciation, you always see him in a sitting posture, in a bright asana, always focused on devotion. And then you see in Bhagavad Purana beautiful teachings of Lord Shiva on devotion to Krishna, on devotion to God, on the importance of spirituality. Lots of wonderful teachings of Shiva you'll find in the tradition of him urging people to become devotees of God, just as Shiva devoted his life to getting people to devote themselves to God. So they're both exemplary devotees of God. 2, what's really important, they are also both role models. Because one of the biggest problems we have in the world today is that we see people talking of devotion a lot, but where's the behavior to match it? So in the language of yoga, we have bhakti, which is devotion, and dharma, which is behavior. You have to have both. If you have to just choose one, then just choose dharma first, because bhakti, devotion, without behavior, without the proper conduct, is a disaster. So you have people who say they're Christians, say they're Jews, they say they're devoted to God, but they're corrupt, they're liars, they're cheaters, or worse, they're like terrorists, or they're, so you have holy wars, you have all these horrible behaviors in the name of God. So that's just terrible. That's the worst thing in the world, really. So what we want is bhakti with dharma. We want devotion with the proper conduct. And that's what we have also with Jesus, a beautiful example of conduct in his charity and behavior and morality beyond any question, beautiful examples of how to behave, how to be. So of course, never lying, never cheating, never, being greedy, lust, being beyond all these mundane mistakes. And of course Shiva is there as a perfect yogi as well. Again, perfect renunciation all the time, perfect behavior. Of course Shiva's wonder, he's divine, he's perfect in every regard also. So devotion to God and the perfect behavior. So then it becomes a beautiful model for you to follow of devotion and conduct. But then 3, and this is the really interesting part, they're both seen within the tradition as divine, as God. So of course in the Christian concept, you have Jesus as entirely man and as entirely God. So they came up with it. In the beginning, there were like different views of Jesus. So some things, he's just entirely man. He's just a wonderful devotee. So there was a whole, lots of people who were followers of Jesus and saw him just as a wonderful, perfect, Jewish preacher. And then there were others who thought, no, he was entirely divine. He's just God. But then, the church kind of took over gradually, the predominating idea was, no. He has to be both. He has to be entirely man and entirely God. So they came up with this rather complicated theology, but that's the one they settled on. So he's entirely God as well. And of course, Shiva is God. Shiva, they have all these texts saying Shiva is God. Bhagavad Purana, even everywhere, Shiva is God. There's no question of that. So Shiva is God. And yet, is the perfect devotee. And this is the wonderful combination. This is where both, they inspire people so much, both Jesus and Shiva. Because you have, in a one-stop shop, as it were, one place where you can see the perfect behavior you can model yourself upon. The perfect devotee, the perfect behavior style, the path, how to become a spiritualist, how to please God. Well, just be like Jesus, be like Shiva. There's like, it's right there. It's like, this is what they do. You can see it. And they were here for you to see. They were around. You could be seen. They were on earth. So Shiva is always present from the beginning of the universe to the end of the universe. He's always present. Because Jesus was in a much shorter time period, but he was here. He's here, like people could see him and touch him and talk to him, and he's an incarnated devotee, incarnated perfect practitioner, and yet supposedly God as well. Of course, in Krishna, God as well, and Shiva, see God as well. But here, you can see him. You can go to, we can't go to Kailash, but the demigods can go to. So, Shiva has his abode in Kailash. You presume demigods can go there. They can see him. He's always, he's around. He's present. He makes himself present within matter, in our material realm, present. So it's the perfect devotee, but also God here, present, to be seen, sharing this physical realm with us at the same time. So people love this. This is one of the things that inspired people so much to follow Jesus, because he is the perfect example of what to do. And yet he's, they see him as God as well. So you can worship him as the perfect example and as God. It's like you're like, okay, that's it. It's like, he's perfect. I can see his perfect behavior. It's perfect God. And so it's very attractive. People like that. It's one of the things that makes Jesus most attractive. And Shiva, same thing. He's there. He's perfect in behavior, perfect in his devotion. Oh, and he's God as well. So it's all there in one package. People like that. It's different. People who are not used to the rest of the Vedic culture might not be aware, but we actually have like Krishna. Krishna is not like the example of a devotee. Krishna is just God. He presents himself as God. He is not to be copied. His life is not, you're not supposed to copy Krishna's life. You're not supposed to go out and dance with gopis in the forest. You're not supposed to marry 16,108 wives. That's not going to work. So with Krishna, it's just God as God, who you worship, but you don't copy. You can't just copy Krishna. You could try to copy Jesus. You could try to copy Shiva, be in meditation, be a yogi. You can try to do that, and that's fine, and it's going to work. But you can't copy Krishna. And that's why people have a little bit of a hard time with Krishna. Even in modern day India, people are all like, oh, Ram. They're more, the state is more like, no, let's be devotees of Ram. It kind of started with the Victorian era, because Victorians were like, oh, what's this Krishna with gopis? This is not appropriate. Because they couldn't understand the concept of God being different from a practitioner, because they had the concept of Jesus. So the Jesus was perfect devotee and God. So, okay, that's something we can worship. Proper behavior, model of conduct. Yes. But with Krishna, he's just the Supreme Lord. It's like they couldn't handle the concept of, no, you don't have to copy him. He's just God. There's something else going on. You have to go a little deeper, understand it. But they couldn't understand it. So they didn't like that so much. But with Ram, Ram is like the perfect human, the perfect king, the perfect hero. Okay, and he's God too. So then that's why Ram is kind of a little more popular in India, especially now. And it's become like the state religion, worshiping Ram. Okay, that's okay, because he's also a model and God. He didn't really do the devotion to God thing so much because he was God, but he did the perfect behavior. But with Shiva and Jesus, you have like the full-on devotion to God, the full-on spiritual practitioner, and God at the same time. So this model, it seems to be very attractive not only for earthlings, but all over the universe, because Shiva does what Jesus did for Earth, Shiva does it for the whole cosmos. He's always there, showing everyone this example of perfect devotion and at the same time being God. That is very interesting. So this fourth parallel, renunciation and detachment. Now both Jesus and Shiva are like, maximum levels, like boss levels of renunciation and detachment, like crazy levels. Like Jesus, people don't know this because the Christians kind of like didn't really want to absorb this teaching too much, so they kind of like ignored it. But it's right there. As you can see, Jesus is super renounced. And at the time when he was around, his followers who wanted to come with him and be with him, they had to be hardcore renounced. You couldn't take like a little backpack of, I'll leave my house, but I'll just take a little bag with some stuff. No, you cannot take a little bag with some stuff. Now, can we just take like a power bar? No, you can't take anything with you. You'd have to walk out with just your clothes and maybe some sandals. That's all you could take. It was hardcore, full renunciation, reject everything. And of course, Shiva is God. He's all powerful. He's got unlimited power. His devotees beg him and he grants, power and kingdoms to his devotees. But he lives under a tree. Shiva doesn't even have a house. He doesn't even have a cabin in the woods. He lives under a tree. And you can see Shiva is always just wearing just gopina, just almost nothing, pretty, almost naked. Complete renunciation. He has nothing. He carries around nothing with him. Total renunciation. And Jesus as well. So they're both examples of extreme renunciation and detachment. And then 5 is really interesting as well. An example of counterculture and rejection of the system. Of course, Jesus actually was what's called agnostic. He actually understood the world as being the product of an evil God. So the world was evil, and this whole system that we're living in was evil. So if you did well in this system, if you were powerful, if you were rich, that meant that you were doing well in an evil system. So what does that make out of you, right? If you, right? I mean, imagine like you have Hitler, Germany, and you're doing really well, and obviously, that doesn't bode well for your person. It means you're kind of evil as well. Like, oh yes, I'm an important rich person in Hitler, Germany. Okay, well, that's not so good, right? So not good. Same thing. He thought the whole world was like evil. So if you're doing well here, if you're in this, the whole thing is corrupt. The whole thing has to be rejected. So he was practicing this counterculture of rejecting everything, rejection of the system, and because that was his view, that everything was just rotten here. And Shiva, if you study the Vedas, is famous for being counterculture as well. He covers himself in ashes from the crematorium. It's like that's like as a symbol of like, look, this is not regular society behavior. It's the opposite, right? A crematorium, like you cover yourself in ashes. You go around with a garland of human skulls. I mean, talk about rejecting the system, right? You're walking around with like a garland of human skulls. It's like, no, I don't think you're like gonna be in the PTA. It's like just rejection of the system. This is something completely different. And as a reminder for people who are mundane. So these two are just giving you, look, if you're in the system, you're kind of like, you're being mundane. You're missing the point. You're falling asleep. You're not seeing the spiritual picture. So I'm here to tell you to reject that, to forget that. I'm here to offer you an alternative, which is spiritual life. So they're both walking models of this rejection of everything mundane. Here is the real solution: spiritual life and devotion. So those are the 5 things. Again, exemplary devotees, role models of behavior, how to behave, how to live a spiritual life. 3, incarnate deities, both God, but here around, so you could touch in the flesh, entirely human, entirely present in the universe, here in material life. 4, absolute renunciation and detachment, like maximum levels of renunciation and detachment. And 5, counterculture and rejection of the system. So those are the 5 parallels that I found between Jesus and Shiva. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below and have the rest of your day with lots of peace and lots of love.